गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरु साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री Gurave Namaha. We are back to Panchadashi and we are on verse number 34, chapter number 4, Dvaita Vivek. How to discriminate duality. And here the chapter began with Ishvara Srishti and Jiva Srishti. And it was Ishvara Srishti, the God's creation and the individual's creation. And this is the duality. Now, idea is not to proclaim and establish that there is duality. The idea is, the teacher's intention is that this duality is our experience, isn't it? We know that we all believe in Lord. And everyone has this question, where did this whole thing come from? So that essence from whom, that principle from whom this whole creation has come about is we have given it a name, God, the Creator. Then we think that, so yes, it is a question of faith, it is a question of analysis, and then there is another creation, and that creation is the individual creation. Where does the God's creation begin? It begins from Him. And where does it conclude? Where does the God's creation conclude? Huh?
Back to Him.
No, we take it from the relative standpoint, not from the absolute standpoint. So where does it conclude? His creation continues, that He invokes His power, then He instigates that power multiplies, and then eventually the space, air, fire, water, earth come about, and then they mix up together and the total world is created. And once the total world is created, the Lord enters. Now don't think that first the world got created and after some time, after a passage of time, the Lord entered. It's happening simultaneously. So as the child is growing, the body, bones are growing, the cells are growing, the height is growing, the weight is growing. But as the child is growing, it is not after some time, after the cells have multiplied, that the consciousness goes and enters into that cell. No, it is simultaneous, isn't it? So exactly the same way. The Lord created the whole creation out of Himself and as if entered. It's an entryless entry, remember this. He as if entered. Till here is the divine phenomena functioning. Then what is the other? In this divine phenomena, there is no misery. There is only bliss. But sir, our experience is that we are living in this world which God created. I can understand that the God created me. I can understand God instigated my parents to come together and they brought about a child, and that child, somewhere the consciousness entered. I can understand this. then why am I not experiencing the bliss that is my birthright? Why? Why do I feel that I have to do something, I have to achieve something, I have to compete, I have to survive, I have got fears of various things, phobias, aspirations, ambitions, and because of all that I become miserable, isn't it? So here now where we are in this 34th verse, but if you go back to verse number 30, there it was told that the, the, the misery is not there in the God's creation, the misery is only in the Jiva's creation or the individual's creation. And what is the creation of the individual? Likes, dislikes, attachments, desires, anger, greed, jealousy, envy, all those six. The waking, the dream, the deep sleep, past, present, future. All these are the, because of them, he becomes miserable. So now this is going to be analyzed. And here he says that that the teacher is telling here in this 30th verse, Matur manabhish nishpattihi nishpannam meyameti tat meyabhisangatam tatcha meya bhatvam prapadyate. And here he says that the knowledge takes place, or how does the knowledge take place is told. The first is, there are certain ingredients that are required for a good curry to come about. Similarly, in order for misery to come about, first there has to be a jiva, an individual. How does the individuality come about is being told. First there should be a substratum, the base, the foundation. What is the foundation? The consciousness. Then second thing that is required is the subtle body is required. And if the subtle body is not there, what is the subtle body? It is the antakarana. Antakarana is mana, buddhi, chitta, ahankar. Mind, intellect, memory and ego. So this inner equipment, this should be there. If this is not there, individuality cannot express itself. And the third ingredient is the expression of the reality of the absolute through the limitation called chitchaya. So through this subtle body, the absolute is reflecting as reflected consciousness. If this reflected consciousness is not there, well, reflected consciousness cannot be there if the subtle body is not there. So these three ingredients are very much required for an individual to be. First is substratum, second is the subtle body, and third is the reflection of the consciousness through the subtle body, isn't it? Now, yes, the consciousness is reflecting in the body also, in the mind also, in the intellect also, in the memories also, yes. But where can you catch it? In the intellect, only in the intellect, in a purified intellect. Mind is too fickle, body is too gross, the breath is too fast, or if breath is inert. So only in the intellect there is a possibility of catching this reflected consciousness. But these three ingredients are required. So from this jiva or the knower, the mind is born. The pure consciousness, for no reason or logic, because of its own nature and potentiality, appears as if to separate into two aspects, the knower and the known. Now you can take it both ways. Remember, the Lord is there out of his own inherent potentiality, because everything is included in the Lord. And that God as if became two. How did he become two? He became the Ishvara, and the other was Prakriti or the Avyakta or the Maya, isn't it? And that Avyakta then multiplied into space, air, fire, water, earth, etc., etc., etc. But what was the reason for the Lord to multiply himself? He was happy with himself. Why? It happened. This is one of the theories by which we can solve the confusions that are going in our mind. We have to take some stand somewhere. Even scientists do that. They take the X factor. They don't know what it is till they deduce what it is, isn't it? So same thing he is also doing. See? So if Lord can do it, so also the reflected consciousness also for no reason as if starts expressing as two. So at the totality level also it is happening, and individuality level also it is happening. How does it express as two? As I thought and that thought, the subject and the object. Huh? The subject and the object. In Vedanta, we don't go from subject and object to the God principle. We bypass that and we go straight to the self. Because the self of the God principle and the self of this individual is one and the same. Why we have to go through the totality? But those who practice the other paths of devotion, of Kundalini, of Hatha Yoga, of meditation, and other many things, they will go to the totality. But we are going beyond that. But understand, the micro is a reflection of the macro. Whatever is happening in the microcosm is what is happening in the macrocosm. So if the Lord has become of his own accord into two to create a creation, the individual, the reflected consciousness also has of its own accord, for no reason whatsoever, started expressing as two, called subject and object, and once the subject and object come, the individual creation begins. There the total creation begins, but the Lord is always the witness. He never gets caught up in the creation that he has created. But at the individual level, when the reflected consciousness as if bifurcates into two, the I thought and the that thought, it gets caught up in it. And therefore it is called individual creation. Very simply put, if you want to get out of this, stop identifying with everything. Just be a witness, be aware, and everything will slow down. And you will fall back into yourself. Then it says that once the where was it? The know, into two aspects, the knower and the known, the subject and the object. The subject is of the nature of knowledge, jnana pradhan, and the object is the astitva pradhan, meaning it's of the nature of existence. It is not of the nature of knowledge. Body is of the nature of existence. This computer is of the nature of existence. This chest of drawers is the nature of its essence is existence. Carpet, existence. We cannot say carpet is conscious. We cannot say computer is conscious. We cannot say body is conscious. Sometimes we do that, but we know there is consciousness expressing through the body. There is a knower of this known object called computer. There is a seer and the scene is the chest of drawers. I am the hearer and the heard is the sound. So every hearer, seer, knower, observer, that is the conscious principle. That is of the nature of knowledge. And what it is seeing, hearing, touching, etc., that is of the nature of existence. It is inert. So this was told. And nishpannam tat meyam iti. Once the mind is born, and what happened, and when this subject, remember, be very careful, when this subject interacts with the object, mind is born. If there is no attachment to the object, now don't think first attachment takes place, then the mind comes about, then intellect will come, nothing like that. It's all happening boom, spontaneously, simultaneously. See? So the moment subject and object come about, immediately the mind comes about. And once the mind is born, it goes towards the object of knowledge. So what is the job of the mind? What is the food of the mind? How does the mind survive? By devouring the objects and thoughts, whatever is external to it. This is how it survives. So here it is told, then when the mind comes in contact with the objects, the mind leaks out. Where does it leak out from? It leaks out from the five senses. It goes, envelops the object and makes it its own. And this is a phenomena that is going on. You cannot stop that. It is happening. Why it is happening? Because the individual is there. Ravana Maharishi can sit with eyes open and the mind will not leak out of the eyes and envelop the forms and disturb his meditation. It will not, because he has disconnected. But when I and that is there and the mind is there, if this I is attached, this mind comes, this mind functions out of the senses, and whatever object comes, for the mind to survive, there have to be objects. Without objects, mind cannot survive. Without objects, mind cannot think. Oh, what about so many funny ideas that I have had in my mind, images that I have had in my mind. I don't see those objects out there in the world. No, objects are again in the outside world and the inside world called dreams also, isn't it? So this is now we'll go into it. The mind flowing through the channel of sense organs comes in contact with the sense objects and takes the respective shape, and this is vritti vyapti. And what Ravana Maharishi is practicing? That there is no vritti vyapti. The precipitation of thought is not taking place in masters. Precipitation of thought will only take place when the mind goes out and envelops, takes the shape of the object, whatever it is. And this is the way we come to know the various objects of the world. It is not the consciousness which is going. It is the mind which is going out. सत्येवं विषयौ द्वौ स्तौ घटौ मृण्मयधीमयौ मृण्मयो मानमेय स्यात् साक्षी भास्यस्तु धीमयः. We're just recapping to see, so that we are in the thought flow. Here in the 31st verse it says, this being so, the object pot is of two kinds, made up of mud and made up of thought. Two things are there. The mud pot is known by the means of knowledge, that is the senses. You can see the pot, you can smell the pot, you can feel the pot, you can hear the pot if you knock on it. And what is the other one? You can taste the pot also. But idea is, any object, if it is there, it can, here the example has been taken as pot, it has to be cognized through one way of cognition is through the senses. And the second is through the mind. How do you cognize through the mind? By way of thought. By way of thought. So two ways. One, eye is seeing the pot, and the other, the thought pot is appearing in your mind. And so two illuminations are taking place. One is the eyes, the physical senses are illuminating the pot. This is one. And the second, if right now you think of a thought called pot in your mind, everyone did? Did you know that the pot thought came in your mind? Did you know? Yes or no? Then how do you know that yes you did?
Before you tell, didn't.
Pardon me?
Before
No, only when I said. So when I said that think of the thought pot, the pot came. The word pot came in your mind. The thought appeared in your mind. So who was illuminated? So if you know that the thought called in inverted commas pot came in your mind, someone was knowing it, isn't it? Is that person outside of you? No. So there are two illuminations. One is the senses illuminate the physical pot outside, and the witness illuminates the thought of the pot in the mind. Two things.
Also, you need knowledge of the pot. When you don't
Yes,
know
yes,
what
yes, 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 that is absolutely correct. The word, but you don't need to have knowledge to have any thought. Thought appears in your mind. And you will, sometimes people, if we do it to the children, they don't know what it means. They will repeat it. And after they say, Swamiji, what does it mean? What does it mean? How do I know what it means? I just said it. But point is not that. Point is, whatever the thought appears in the mind of any object in the world, there are two knowledges taking place. One is the sensory knowledge, two illuminations taking place. One is the sensory illumination, and the other is the witness illuminating the thought of the object out there in the world. Isn't it? So this is the point that we are trying to make here. That's all. Mrunmayah manmayah syat. The pot is made out of mud and it is known in the mind. The pot which is in the mind, who knows that? This is the question that we were answering just now. Dhimayah tu sakshi bhasyah. The witness or the sakshi is the knower of the thought of the pot in the mind. One has to be very alert when this analysis is going on. So similarly, the whole world is illumined and known by the mind, and the mind is known by the How do you know the whole world? By way of thoughts. Table, chair, glass, curtain, chandelier, light, etc., etc. All the planets, the constellations, the galaxies, everything we know, isn't it? Once we get exposed to it. But who knows that this thought knowledge is appearing in the mind? The witness. So now the idea is not just analyze, acha, big deal. No, you are that witness. Don't get caught up in the world, don't get caught up in the thoughts or the mind. Understand that this is going on, that you are taking a wrong position when you get identified with the thoughts, because it is just not possible for you to identify with the thoughts. Everything that you are listening to right now, your ears are open to the word sounds that are coming out of my mouth. They are appearing as, so that is one part. Your ears are illuminating this sound, and these sounds are becoming thoughts in your mind. Are you knowing that these thoughts are there? Yes, you are watching it right now. And therefore sometimes if you are a little bit of what you call, you are thinking about something else and not listening, then Swamiji, can you repeat that? Can you repeat that? How do you know that you have missed something? Understand this position of yours. How do you know that you have missed something that was told if you were not observing what was going on in the mind? Isn't it? So beautiful. So take the position of being the witness. And this is going on. It's somewhere something has gone wrong and we have taken the position of the ego or the individual. So whether you like it or not, the witness is illuminating the thoughts and the senses are illuminating the objects, and those objects are appearing as thoughts in your, not in your, those objects are appearing as thoughts in the mind. The is important, not your, because you are the witness. So in this way, and therefore here it is told, can you do anything about the world? If I open my eyes and I see a rainy day, if I open my eyes, I see it is snowing, I land in Kathmandu and I come to hear that there is a landslide. Next day I hear that the only choice I have is, this is presented to me, that there are two possibilities. Either you go back to Australia or you pay $600 for the helicopter to go to the border. So every moment of our life, the world is presenting something all the time, isn't it? You have a choice to be the witness and watch those thoughts appear in the mind. If you react, that react will create more ripples within the mind, as like or dislike or desire or reaction or response or comparison from the last trip, etc., etc. So many options are there. Or you can stand apart and just watch. Okay, this has happened. Let's see what happens. Don't own it. When it is known by the mind, it enters one's territory with the potential to make one happy or unhappy. The freedom of choice is one's own, whether to allow that potentiality to express itself in the form of giving value to the world and seeking happiness in it, or devalue it totally and remain unborn as an individual. If you are a witness, remember this thing. If you are the witness, precipitation of ego will not take place. If you identify with the subtle body, this is gross, this is subtle and this is causal. Causal you cannot do anything about. It's subtle. If you identify with the thoughts that are coming in the subtle body, or why it has to happen when only we go to the Kailash? Why landslide has to come? My God, $600 for the helicopter. That is insane.
Was that each person?
It doesn't matter. I don't want to go into that. Huh? And I react to that, what is happening outside in the world. Landslide. Why did the landslide have to take place just the day before I arrive? Why couldn't it take place afterwards? This could have been my thought, isn't it? Yesterday someone called, Swamiji, by your blessings, we went to Vaishno Devi, and the moment we got into the plane and took off, according to the news, there were floods in Jammu Kashmir. So we escaped. So elation, reaction to the outside. Becoming miserable, reaction to the outside. So we have a choice. If we allow this mind to get if we allow the consciousness to get identified with the mind, it will start seeking answers in the world. But if we keep it separate from the mind, then it just allows the everything to function the way it is functioning. Solutions will, if the problems have come, the solutions will also come. It's nothing to do with us. You watch. If the flight goes, it goes. If it doesn't go, it doesn't go. And believe it or not, this was the attitude, because we took the text called Aparoksha Anubhuti throughout the trip. And in that same point is given. And throughout the trip, as a group, we are trying and maintaining that conscious space. Remain aware all the time. Then it is then you will enjoy. Then the world cannot dictate. The world meaning the objects of the world cannot dictate your happiness or that you are happy or miserable. No, they cannot dictate. Because how do we know the world? Through thoughts. Our attachment to the thoughts brings about likes and dislikes, isn't it? Then we keep running from one thing to the other. So here it is told, when one stands apart and watches the mind and its content play out this drama with every object in the external world, gradually the mind loses its potency. I have told many times, once again I'll repeat. If the consciousness separates itself from the mind, meaning it is witnessing the mind, not attached to the thoughts in the mind, it is equivalent to putting the switch off of a moving fan. When the switch is off, the current is not flowing to the fan, but the momentum that it had gained while the connection was there, it will exhaust that momentum for 5 minutes to 3-4 minutes and eventually come to a standstill. Exactly the same thing. The moment you disconnect from the mind will still continue to move for some time because of the connection which was there before. That had given it the momentum. But when you disconnect, it will still keep moving. But if you maintain that distance, if you maintain the witness not being attached, then eventually, very quickly, it will come to a standstill. What? The mind. First, the external thoughts of the external world will die, will become zero. Then the thoughts which get erupted in your mind because of the memory, they will get settled down. Then what is there in the subconscious mind, they will come out, they will also settle down, because you are not getting attached to anything. You will make some mistakes here and there, sometimes you will get attached, sometimes, but as you, if the more alertness is and vigilance is practiced in your daily life, to that extent, the scriptures say, ere long, very quickly, it doesn't take too long. The fault is not, oh, I have been doing this exercise for last 1 month and it has not happened. You have not been doing the exercise correctly, that's why it has not happened. If you did the exercise correctly of being not attached to the mind, then it would have, everything would have been over. So that means somewhere I am going wrong. So correct, be more vigilant. The external level is God's creation and holds no problem. It is when Jiva's creation is introduced that problems begin. What does this mean? Remember, the whole world is created by God out of Himself. So the whole world is essentially divine. Then why, when we interact with that world, we become miserable? If the computer is not working, I become miserable. Why? If someone doesn't listen to me, I become miserable. Why? It's divine. Then why am I not seeing divinity? This is the problem. So this problem is not in the world. If I give whatever we are saying here right now, what the text is telling and the exposition on the various verses that is going on, the idea that is being presented, every one of you will take it differently, or will be processing it differently. Someone will be comparing it with their past information. Someone will be thinking, "Arey yaar, same thing he's repeating again." Then third one will be saying, he says or he doesn't say, who cares? Each one will have a different response. But there is one perfect one, which is remaining witness. So if everyone responds to it differently, processes it differently, what does that tell us? That this fellow is identified with this mind. Then what is the correct way to interact with this information right now? Is it to be too seriously listening to the talk that is being given? Or is it to watch the thoughts forming in your mind? Thoughts are automatically coming in the mind. I'm watching. Who am I? Another time we have told you. What is that because of which hearing is possible? What is that because of which seeing is possible? Think about that power. You will come back to the self. So, in God's creation there is no problem. In Jiva's creation there is nothing but problem. What is indicated by this analysis is that man's creation is Dvaitam, duality, which causes bondage. This is explained. So, in God's creation there is no duality. Why in God's creation there is no duality? Tell me. Why in God's creation there is no duality?
Because he is only one and can't be divided.
Yes, he is only one, but as if has become many. Because he has become many does not mean that he has lost his unifying the nature of one, isn't it? See? And the individual, can he see one without a second? As long as he is searching the answer, the happiness, the peace, the solutions in the world, he can never. Because the world and I, the consciousness and matter, these two, the opposing, they are only for the individual. They are not for the Lord. They are not for the God. God doesn't say, I am consciousness and I am becoming matter. He doesn't say that. He is everything. It's the individual which feels that I am conscious and this computer is inert. I am conscious, this mountain is inert. I am conscious, this ball is inert. Isn't it? Because he's processing it wrongly. And because of this wrong processing, because of this attachment of the conscious principle with, or the subject with the mind, this whole secondary creation called the individual creation comes about. We all, it's very easy to understand. We all live in the same world, right? We all live in the same world. But each one of us has his own internal world, isn't it? Each one has his own internal world. Every one of you will come here to the same room, but will interact differently, will look at things differently. You may look at the beautiful design, another one may look at, array, it is fading, third one will say, array, why they have changed the position. Each one will go on and create his own imagination. See? And that will be based upon the memories and the thoughts that they have collected and identified with. And in this way, अन्वयव्यतिरेकाभ्याम धीमयो जीवबन्धकृत सत्यस्मिन् सुखदुःखेस्तः तस्मिन्न सति न द्वयम्. By the process of inquiry consisting of inclusion and exclusion, it is seen that the thought object is the cause of bondage for jiva. When thought object is taken to be real, both joys and sorrows result, while in their absence, both joys and sorrows exist not. So what is the teacher telling here? That the thought object, see, you must have heard of people pursuing a dream, isn't it? Pursuing a dream. And what is the dream? That I am a CEO of a company and I have increased the business of the company from this much to this much, and I am driving, the company has given me a Rolls Royce and my salary is so much and I got the share portfolio of so much, etc., etc., etc. Is it real? It's not. But is the thought of that non-existing object, well, he has not attained his dream yet, but Rolls Royce and the house and the car and the money and the all that is a thought in his mind, isn't it? And he is identified with those group of thoughts, and starts thinking that this group of thoughts called my dream, they are the one, that is my purpose of life, that is what defines me who I am, isn't it? But show me where is the thought. There's no object called thought. So it's an imagination. When mother says something, the son becomes miserable. Who is this son? It's the thought in the mind of being a son. You're a man. If the husband says something, the wife becomes reacts. Not the woman. It's identification with the thought that I am his wife, I am her husband, I am her son. So when that object comes in front of you, automatically you start behaving in a particular way. Because that thought is so strong. If mother comes and you see look at yourself, if your husband is there and your daughter is there and your friend is there, when you look at the moment you want to say something to your daughter, when your eyes go there, automatically the mother comes out. The mother hat is you are wearing. The moment your attention shifts to the husband, the wife starts speaking. The tone changes. The moment you come to your friend, again the friend starts speaking. The wife and the wife and the mother are not there anymore. So who are these mother, wife and friend? They are nothing but three thoughts in your mind, isn't it? And how much importance and value and attention we have given to these thoughts determines our response to, because of whom we have taken that position of son, father, or daughter or whatever. You see? But where is the daughter? Where is the wife? Only in the mind. Where is the mother? Only in the mind. Where is the friend? Only in the mind. Where is the dream? Only in the mind. Where is the ambition? Only in the mind. Where is jealousy? Only in the mind. Where is anger? Only in the mind. See? And this way we get caught up in this loop of thoughts and are unable to come out of it. Why? Because we have given them value and attention. And therefore here the teacher is saying that anvaya vyatireka dhimaya jiva bandha kruta, through the technique of association and disassociation. Association, anvaya, and disassociation, neti or vyatirek. We have seen this somewhere else. Not this, I'm not the body, I'm not the breath, I'm not the mind. This is disassociation. And after dissociation, what happens? I am not only this I, but I am association, I am all the I's. I am not only this body, but I am the one who is functioning through all the bodies. This is association. So, but it has to be applied appropriately so that you come to the conclusion. And what is the conclusion? Conclusion is, I am essentially the witness, not the individual that I seem to be accepting myself as. So, asmin sati sukha dukkhe staha. Furthermore, so long as this mental projection about the Lord's creation exists in an individual, he enjoys or suffers. Why don't you take things as themselves? Once the example was there that one girl came and one woman came and gave sweets to the person, next door neighbor. She says, what are the sweets for? He said, oh, my daughter has passed the year 12 exam. She came with good marks. And the neighbor immediately gave back the sweet. Why you give back the sweet? My daughter. No. Pushed her out. Or took the sweet, or must have taken, you can't do. She put it away. I'm not going to eat that. After she goes away. Then she told another neighbor. She purposely brought the sweets so that I feel bad that my daughter has failed. Now, this is fertile imagination. And this is what we do when we interact with people, isn't it? We bring our imagination. If you start doing that as a doctor, bring your imagination about every patient, you will have problem on your hand. See? You don't mix the previous patient's problem with this next patient's problem. You will have problem on your hand. And that will happen if she is not able to drop the previous one. That will happen if she is interacting with the patient but not in a attached manner, in a detached manner. Then she will do the service to the patient, whatever is required, but at the same time, no precipitation of attachment. Then you move on to the next one. This is God's creation. It should bring you bliss when you interact with it. But what is happening instead? It is creating misery. It is creating aspirations. It is creating likes and dislikes. So our interaction with that which is divine is wrong, is upside down. So we have to correct that. And the only way to correct that is stand apart from the mind. Stand apart from the mind. Recognize in some silent moment when you are having your tea or got up in the morning or going to sleep or got up from the sleep. Watch that I am the observer of the thoughts that are coming in my mind. I am not the thinker. I am the observer. And the moment you take that position, those thoughts will get no value and they will become important. Tasmin asati dvayamna. On the other hand, when the mind does not accept anything in this world, there is neither joy nor sorrow. A Ramana Maharshi state, a yogic state. Moving through the world, but not of the world. All masters are of that quality. Moving through the world, but not of the world means not attached to the world. That does not mean that you will not be able to function in the world. You will function. The functioning capacity is still there. That much is it's intelligent to do that. But there will be no joy and there will be no miseries. And when joys and miseries are not there, then bliss reveals itself. The bondage that man suffers from is because of the Jiva Srishti Manasa Prapancha, the mental projection of the world created by the Jiva. Therefore, it is Jiva Bandhakruta. When mental creation ceases, all binding chains are snapped and one rises above the limitations of relative existence. See? So, when all mental projections, so son is a mental projection, wife is a mental projection, husband is a mental projection, friend is a mental projection, desire is a mental projection, I cannot live without eating this is a mental projection, I need a coffee every day at 4 o'clock, mental projection. See? Oh, if I eat this, it creates a reaction within my body, mental projection. Just now someone sent me a link In Gujarat, this person is still living. He is 90 years old. When he was 20 years old, he was doing his prayers and something clicked inside. From that day, he has not had one drop of water and no food. No food, no water. Remind me, I'll show you the photograph. Still living. For 70 years, without food and without water.
Is that possible?
Oh, he looks like a big man.
No, he's
No,
frail.
No,
He's frail. And they put him in hospital for 15 days for observation to see, is this real? 15 days, no water, no food. There are so many cases. This is just one. The first case was told about, in India there are many, but the world came to know about the lady in Germany in the early part of the last century. So when we get disidentified with the mental creation, so what does mental creation say for this man? For us it says, I must eat to survive. I must drink water, otherwise how will I, they say within 7 days or 6 days I will die. But something happened to that fellow when he was 20 years old. He's a Swami now, he's at 20. From that moment on, he says, no, I don't need anything. All I need is the Lord's name. That is enough. And stopped. So, he stopped identifying with the desires, with the thoughts that were erupting in his mind. What are we doing studying the scriptures for last so many years? We have developed a way of interacting with the world. We have developed a way, each one is individual, unique. We have developed our own way and a unique way of interacting with the world, processing the world, thinking about the world. And what scriptures are doing? They are trying to erase all that. They are not even trying to erase. They are showing you a new way of thinking. A new way so that you can reclaim who you essentially are. This is possible only through the mind. So right now the mind says, is it possible? But then mind will become convinced if the data, and right now we are sitting here, if you go to Gujarat, you speak to the doctors, you see him, you stay with him and you watch him, you observe him, then the doubt which was here, that will go away. But for that you will have to make the journey to prove it to yourself. Similarly, if scriptures are saying you do not identify with the thoughts in the mind, then you will be happy. Then you have to make that journey. You have to make that experiment. Initially you believe it in faith, but that faith can be converted to knowledge only when you experiment with it, not otherwise. See? Not otherwise. Doctors told me, give up, you will have to take these medicines for the rest of your life. Now it's 9 months. 9, isn't it? This is 9. September is 9 months. 9 months I have not taken any medicine. Stopped everything. And I am feeling much, much, much better than when I was taking it. 9 months, no medicine. See? Now, what happened? I also heard it before, but never implemented it, never acted upon it, never experimented with it. So when the scriptures are saying this is the technology, this is what is God's creation, this is what is individual creation. Individual creation is an imaginary creation. And where is this imaginary creation? In the mind. And attachment to this imaginary creation, imaginary thoughts. Don't think that because you think you are intelligent, there is nothing called thought. Nobody has seen a thought till now. Oh, they put those wires around your head and they can see that you are thinking. That one fool it's like a non-existing thing giving birth to another non-existing thing. It's like we say, from ignorance came the desire, and from desire came the activity. Like in those who are coming in the morning class, from ignorance came the word. So the word is a product of ignorance. How can that which is a product of ignorance become real? Cannot. We say the waking and the dream world, dream world, they come out of the deep sleep world. But what is deep sleep world? It is emptiness. That which is empty, how can it give birth to something? So but you say, no, but dream world I dream and the physical world I am living in, all these are imaginary, they are not existing. Because of your attachment to it, it is so real. How can something that which is not there, a non-existing mind called deep sleep, give birth to some existence? It is blasphemy. It is not possible. How can ignorance give birth to something? So effect of ignorance is real and ignorance is unreal. Don't fool yourself. Similarly, the thoughts, because you feel that there are thoughts there and we are interacting, we are thinking, we are ideating, we are feeling, does not mean they are real. Then what is real? Then what is real? The one who is illuminating the thoughts. That alone is real. So don't give that value of reality to the world. I can't remember which chapter, but everything that is ephemeral, everything that is changing, everything that is kshanik, it's there one moment and next moment it is not there. It cannot be real. Real is that which is permanent. Real is that which is unchanging. Find out in your whole experience from birth till now, what is that unchanging? The body has been changing, the world has been changing, the breath has been changing, the emotions have been changing and are still changing. The thoughts are continuously changing. Then what is unchanging? The one who knows all this, the one who is illuminating all this is the unchanging. But then we want to know this illuminator, we want to know this witness through thinking process. It is not possible. Again we get into the mind. And this is where we hit the axe on our own foot. We dig our own grave. You cannot think of witness and be the witness. Either you are or you are not. And in this way, come to the conclusion. Where are we? Is the Anvaya Vyatireka technique applicable with reference to external objects? The topic is discussed now. So basically here the nihilist philosophy is being refuted. Asatyapi cha bahyarthe असत्यपि च बाह्यार्थे स्वप्नादौ बध्यते नरः स्वप्नादौ बध्यते नरः समाधिसुप्तिमूर्च्छासु समाधिसुप्तिमूर्च्छासु सत्यप्यस्मिन्न बध्यते सत्यप्यस्मिन्न बध्यते. In the dream, etc., although the external objects are not available, but a man is affected by joys and sorrows. Isn't it true? So objects are not there, you are sleeping, and in the dream objects are there. Objects are there, but as only by way of thought. And you go through excitement, you go through fear, you go through, joys and sorrows. So, mind does not need the objects, physical objects. It does not need the gross world. It is self-sufficient that way because the memories are there. So it is told, are not available. Contrary to this, when the external objects are available, they are not able to affect a person in samadhi, deep sleep or under sedation. So they are giving you two standpoints. What are those standpoints? One is, you don't need objects in order to have thoughts, as in dream. And the second, even if the objects are there in the outside world, but if you are sleeping, do those objects produce thought in your mind? No. If you are in meditation, do those objects produce a thought in your mind? No. If you are under sedation or you are in shock or you are in coma, do those objects create a thought in your mind? No. So both ways. Now which one is real? So in the dream, objects are not available, and in meditation or sleeping or under sedation, objects are available, but thoughts are not there. So this is the point that they are making. But man is intelligent. Even though the objects are not there, but only with imagination he can wake up sweating, he can wake up thirsty, he can wake up absolutely afraid. Because what was the beauty of this individual? Out of nothing, he created an imaginary world and got caught up in that imaginary world and is reacting emotionally to that imaginary world and becoming miserable or joyful. See? The mind in itself makes a heaven out of hell and a hell out of heaven. And why are we studying the scriptures? Because till now we have been making hell out of heaven. To make heaven out of hell, meaning to make bliss out of, to be blissful every moment of our existence, in spite of the joys and sorrows, in spite of the world. For that, something needs to shift within us, isn't it? If we keep doing what we are doing, we will keep getting what we have been getting. If we need to change something, then our take on it has to change. Our approach to it has to change. So, in correcting this hallucination and changing the vision lies the release. Release of whom? The one who feels, who is bound. Why is he bound? Because he is identified with the mind. And it is only, you cannot bring something else from outside to remove. If your thoughts have become a bondage to you, it is thoughts alone which will relieve that bondage. So what are we doing? Scriptures are also thoughts. So we are using a different quality of thoughts to cut away the lower type of thoughts. So in this way, to emphasize the Anvaya Vritirek technique, two examples are given. दूरदेशं गते पुत्रे दूरदेशं गते पुत्रे जीवत्येवात्र तत्पिता जीवत्येवात्र तत्पिता विप्रलम्भकवाक्येन विप्रलम्भकवाक्येन मृतं मत्वा परोदिति Tvaparoditi. This is the first example, and here it says, although the son is alive in a distant land, his father, deluded by a statement of a neighbor or a liar, grieves and weeps, imagining his son to be dead. See? Imagines, because someone has told him, I received a phone call that your son has died. Because this fellow, the father does not have a phone. It used to be like that in India.
Yeah.
One phone in the whole building, someone who can afford, and all phone calls used to go to him. And what he heard and what he told you is two different things. And here the father is miserable. So, in reality, the son is alive, but the misery is being experienced by the father, imagining that the son has died. Second example, Mrute tasmin vartayam Mrute tasmin vartayam Ashrutayam na roditi Ashrutayam roditi Ata sarvasya jivasya Bandhakrudmanasam jagat. In another case, the second example, although really dead, but having not known about the death of a son. Many people go to war. In war, the child has died, their son has died, but the parents don't come to know for many weeks or months. So for all those months, only in the imagination that my son is well, they are not experiencing the misery. And what is the truth? Truth is, he is already dead. So imagination can be both ways. One is alive and you are imagining death, one is dead and you are imagining that one is alive. And this way we create problems for our own mind. We don't see things as they are. To see things as they are, you have to live every moment. You have to be alert every moment. You have to respond only to what is coming, not what is out of your jurisdiction. Tomorrow is out of your jurisdiction. Yesterday is out of your jurisdiction. Previous moment is out of your jurisdiction. Next 2 minutes, 1 minute is out of your hands. So stop thinking about what will happen. You are going into imagination. Deal with what is there in front of you. And when you come into that moment, they will be witnessing. In past and future, there is no witnessing possible. Only in the present moment, witnessing is possible. So in this way, it can be concluded that the bondage of all jivas is only at the level of mind and is the creation of the mind alone. So stop identifying with the mind and be the witness. Now a doubt is raised. We'll see this doubt in our next class. And what is the doubt? That if it is said that the external objects carry no significance for joys and sorrows, and that all experiences are in the mind only, will not this line of thinking lead to Vijnanavad of the Bauddhas? What is the Vijnanavad of the Bauddhas? That the external world is mithya. We don't say it is mithya. we say it is God's creation. We don't say it is non-existing. How can you say the world is not non-existing? It is there. What is non-existing is names and forms. World is there, but what is non-existing is names and forms. Identification with names and forms creates thoughts, and we get caught up in their web. So what is that? We'll look at it in our next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Just sit quietly for next 5 minutes and watch. Be the witness. To be the witness, you have to come in the utter present moment, in the now. Don't like or dislike any thought. Don't judge any thought. If anything erupts in the mind, let it come, let it go. You be the light in whose presence the thoughts in the mind are coming and going. शांति शांति। हरि ओम। श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम।